Presentation tonight from the Finance Department, the Management, Budget, and Grants Department, and the Sports and Recreation Department. I'm Councilwoman Marilyn E. Rossetti, and I am the Chair of Operations Management, Budget, and Government Accountability Committee. This meeting is broadcast live on HPA-TV's Xfinity Government Channel 96 and Frontier Government Channel 6032. It will also be streamed via HPA-TV.org, the HPA-TV Facebook page, the HPA-TV Apple TV, Amazon TV, and Roku TV apps. It will also be made available on the HPA-TV YouTube channel. I would like to acknowledge my colleagues who are present today. To my left is Councilman Mitchnam. To my right is Majority Leader Bilodeau. Council President Clark will be here shortly. On the screen, I see Councilman Thomas and Councilwoman Rosado. Tonight's first presentation will be the Finance Department, and we have Leanne Rawls, the Director. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that this is, I assume, Leanne's last budget hearing with the City of Hartford. We are not asking her to leave. She's choosing to leave. She's retiring, which is wonderful, 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 but we will certainly miss her here, and we, thank you for all that you've done. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Councilwoman Rossetti. Appreciate that. Thank you as well to you and the members of council for allowing me to present the fiscal year 2027 budget, recommended budget for the Finance Department. As you mentioned, my name is Leanne Rawls, and I'm the CFO for the city. I have with me today most of my senior leadership team. If I could take a moment to introduce them. To my left, Michelle Harrison. She is the procurement manager. Next to Michelle is Nancy Raish, who is our tax collector. Next to Nancy is Constance Reich, our controller. And then last, next to Constance, is John Phillip, our most esteemed tax assessor. Missing this evening is Sarah Lowenthal, who is our Director of Safety and Risk. Also to my right is Director Julian Freund, who is the Director of the Office of Management, Budget, and Grants, which is under my leadership, kind of indirectly. Julian doesn't need much from me, but it's because of Julian and his team that you see this lovely budget book in front of you this evening, so special shout out to the budget team. The teams do work really well together as well, but we can get started. Thank you, Julian. So the mission of the Finance Department, and I won't read the whole thing, but it basically does not change year over year. Our goal is to ensure the fiscal integrity of the city's finances by exercising due diligence and strong internal controls over the city's assets and resources. And we do that by providing timely and accurate reporting, as well as strong policies and procedures. So this is a necessary function to ensure that the city is providing its most accurate financial data, and that is also a function of minimizing the ability for fraud in the city's books. Next. So the department is made up of 5 divisions. We don't have a deputy director in finance, but we have 5 strong division heads, who I mentioned earlier, the senior leadership team. The divisions are procurement, risk management, which is part of the administration division, tax assessor, tax collector, and accounting and control. Under those divisions, we have 6 subunits. 3 of them are in the procurement division, which is purchasing, supplier diversity, and contract compliance. And then we have another 3 subunits under accounting and control, which are accounts payable, accounting and reporting, and then payroll. So my team is made up of 52 positions, We currently have 7 vacancies in the department. And while we are on the screen, if I could take a moment to thank my full finance team for all of their hard work and support this year. We have a lot of activity running through the department, and we get a lot done in a short amount of time. I think you can skip all of these, Julian. The slides that Julian are skipping are the individual divisions organization charts. So the roles and responsibilities by division in finance. For accounting and control, we provide daily financial transaction processing and reporting. The accounts payable / pre-audit team is reviewing and auditing approximately 50,000 invoices every year before the invoices are released for payment. And I would like to mention that that is a team of 1 supervisor and 2 staff that do 50,000 invoices throughout the year. And that includes invoice activity for not only the city, but for Hartford Public Library, for Hartford Parking Authority, and for the Hartford Public Schools. We also provide payroll for the 1,600 employees at the city, which includes part-timers, 4,000 pensioners, and we do all of the mandated reporting for not only the city's employees and pensioners, but we do it for Hartford Public Schools and for Hartford Public Library. In the procurement division, daily roles and responsibilities include providing purchasing services to meet the departmental goals of the city. And again, that extends to Hartford Public Schools, Parking Authority, and the library. We maintain the city's supplier diversity program. We monitor contractors and developers to comply with the city's affirmative action plan. And for those of you who are not familiar with the city's affirmative action plan, also known as the HAP, it is a mandated requirement of 15% of total construction costs is with the MWBE. It is a goal of 30% of total project hours are worked by a Hartford resident, and a goal that 15% of the total project hours are by trade are worked by minority or female workers. On the risk management side, we procure the annual insurance for the city. So that's all general business insurance and workers' comp insurance, cyber, and then professional liability insurance. We do that again for the city, the schools, the library, and the Hartford Parking Authority, excuse me. We manage all the claims for the city's general insurance, property and liability, as well as all workers' compensation claims. At the same time, we have to exercise vendor management over all of the city's insurance brokers, TPAs, third-party administrators, our COI compliance software, and any risk management consultant that we have. At the same time, the risk team reviews all the contracts that flow through the city to ensure that the vendors that we are doing business with have the proper insurance should anything happen. And the risk department also creates a safety program. So we're providing safety training to departments, ensuring OSHA compliance when we can. In the tax assessment division, we discover, list, and value all real property of the city, including real estate, personal property, and motor vehicle, as well as tax-exempt property throughout the city. John and his team produce the city's grand list by January 31st of every year, and that establishes the base for the tax collector, Nancy, to create her bills on. And as mandated by state statutes, John and his team perform a revaluation on the city's real property. And that leads us to tax collection, where Nancy and her team will bill and collect all property taxes in accordance with state statutes. She also provides daily, weekly, and monthly reporting on cash collections, and Nancy and her team also enforce collection of all delinquent taxes. Some of our accomplishments in 2026. So in accounting and control, once again, we completed our external audit and filed our fiscal year 2025 ACFR, Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, our federal single audit and our state single audit on time. So these reports all have to be filed by December 31st with OPM and then the federal and state government. While we've accomplished filing on time, we also had no material weaknesses, no reportable conditions, and no management comments this year. So management comments are just weaknesses in internal controls that our auditors see as they're performing the audit. So I just want to point out that this is important because the state just instituted into their statutes that if a municipality requests an extension to file their ACFR, they get a 6-month extension. If they do not meet that extension, then they become eligible for Tier 1 under the MARB. And similarly, if a town or a city has a reportable condition, a material weakness, or management letter comments that they have not cleared in 2 years, on the 3rd year, it again activates eligibility for Tier 1 under MARB oversight. In accounting and control for fiscal year 2025, we met our fund balance policy. I think for the first time since I've been an employee of the city of Hartford. Our fund balance policy is set to 7.5% of the total appropriations for the budget year, and we met that in fiscal 25 at 7.73%. On the procurement division, we restructured the division, working with HR and the Chief Operating Officer's office. And what we ended up doing is adding another FTE on the purchasing side. And that position is a deputy purchasing agent, and it should allow for us to provide more timely and efficient purchasing services to our departments. We also transferred the lean process improvement position out from under procurement, which was in a subunit, to the Office of the Chief Operating Officer under his performance management unit. And then Michelle, along with Corporation Counsel and the Chief Operating Officer's office, participated in a Harvard Bloomberg study where they reviewed all of the policies and procedures in procurement. They've come up with a list of recommendations that those three departments are working on to implement. So along with the restructuring of the unit with the Harvard Bloomberg study, we should start to see some relatively big improvements on the procurement side. For risk management, we managed 2 OSHA claims this year, one in the public safety complex and one in City Hall. We have an ongoing OSHA violation that we're working on right now with the Department of Public Works. We have managed the transformer claim, which was that lovely explosion a little over a year ago outside of City Hall, between City Hall and the library, working with our claims adjuster on getting all of the proper reimbursements for that incident. We held the first ever certificate of insurance training, which I did not think would be as popular as it was. It was a citywide training provided to all staff who are involved in the contract routing process. We had 189 attendees for the first training, and it went really, really well. And it's a training that we're looking to keep in rotation every 6 months or so for risk. And then additionally, we had some safety training, defensive driving, which is a pretty popular safety training that extends to all departments, not just our public safety division. We had bloodborne pathogen training, electrical awareness, electrical safety, bucket truck, ladder safety, a lot of different safety trainings, mainly in DPW, and we're looking to expand upon this in fiscal '27. For a tax assessment, we filed the grand list timely with OPM by January 31st this year, and we've started preparations for the upcoming revaluation. It was delayed 1 year, so we will pick up preparations again maybe winter of '26, right? And then on the tax collector side, we have been working pretty closely with Department of Development Services and the Mayor's Office and created our next listing for our tax deed sale, again, to ensure compliance with our tax collection rules. And then one piece of exciting news is we signed the contract for a tax payment kiosk, which is similar to an ATM machine, but it's a machine that's available as long as the location's open, where people can come in and actually pay their taxes through the machine in any language that they would like. The strategic initiatives for the department are what's in the budget book: maximize the grand list valuation, ensure accuracy to facilitate tax revenue collection, to ensure that all financial reporting is in accordance with mandated rules, maximize our collection of current and delinquent taxes, enhance all applicable contract compliance monitoring and reporting, and that's for all construction and service contracts, and then facilitate a safe workplace environment for our staff. This slide shows our budget from fiscal 2026 and how we've rolled forward to fiscal 2027 and our recommended ask. The change is relatively minor at $123,000. However, that change is made up of several different movements. So we've added one new position in our risk division, and that position is for a safety compliance officer. So this position will work on various OSHA issues and compliance rules that we need to adhere to. And it will continue building out the safety program for all departments in the city. We have the one new position in procurement that I mentioned earlier, which is the deputy purchasing agent. We've removed the CFO position and left just the finance director position in our budget. Last year, we were hoping to have a transition year where it would be both me and the new person coming in, so I could transition 20 years of knowledge over. But unfortunately, there's been some difficulty with recruiting, so that never came to fruition. So going forward in '27, we don't need that additional position. As mentioned earlier, we transferred the lien savings project manager to the Office of the Chief Operating Officer, and then the remaining increases related to contractual increases. So moving forward into '27, we've had a lot of turnover in the finance department over the last few years, so continue to building up the staff some skills and knowledge on various finance initiatives. Main goal is to fill the 2 vacancies in the payroll unit. Right now, there's a lot of strain on the 2 people left that are processing all of that payroll by themselves and doing a great job, still getting it out timely every week. As part of getting payroll to a place where it needs to be, we are working with MHIS on reviewing our time and attendance software and the way it's structured so that we can better serve the departments and they don't have as many payroll change requests coming in weekly. I mentioned earlier succession planning. I'm still working on that, just not with a person, but a lot of written documentation to provide to the next finance director for the city. Nancy will be holding the tax deed sale sometime either late summer, early fall of 2026. Procurement will continue to work on the Harvard Bloomberg recommendations and implementation of those recommendations with Corporation Counsel and the Chief Operating Officer's office. And again, John will start his assessment and evaluation and preparing for the revaluation that was postponed for 1 year. And then Sarah and her team will continue to build out the safety program, especially with the addition of the safety compliance officer. And then one thing that I didn't mention on here is that both finance and budget have been working closely with the treasurer's office and the mayor's office on the upcoming bond sale and master lease issuance. So continuing to work on that project. And then the composition of the finance department, 31% of the team are residents of the city, 69% non-residents. And then we're mainly 71% females in finance with a lackluster 29%, but we're working on it. We're working on getting more males into the team. And with that, I wrap up my presentation and available for any questions.
You don't need any more males. Did I say that? I'm sorry. We have 3 departments tonight, so I've expressed to my colleagues we will do 1 round of 2 questions each. And if there are more questions that I'm sure Director Rawls or anybody would in the departments would be welcome, the emails. So as last night, we'll start with my colleagues on the screen. I'll start with Councilwoman Rosado.
We can't hear you, Molly.
You're muted.
Apologies. Through you, Madam Chair. I have no questions. I just want to say it's an excellent presentation, just like we get every year. I just want to thank Leanne for her leadership and her commitment to the city of Hartford. It's bittersweet to see her leave, but congratulations on your well-deserved retirement. We'll continue to work together until that day comes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Thomas.
Yeah, just thank you so much, Madam Chair. I just wanted to echo the same statements that Councilwoman Rosado had. I don't have any questions either. Thank you so much, Ms. Leanne.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Councilman. Okay, I will now start from my left. Councilman Mitchum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I echo those sentiments, you know, a well-deserved retirement, but you will be missed sorely around here, especially since we don't have your replacement. I have a question about, like, finance cuts all the checks, right? So when the city gets like state or federal money for a specific thing, that goes through you guys, right? Like, you cut the check to whoever. Mm-hmm. What oversight do you have? Like, if we get ARPA money and it's specifically for whatever, buying a bunch of hats, I'm just saying, and we have our hat contractor, what's, other than cutting the check, like, what's finance's role or the city's role there?
So if it is a grant that we're cutting a check for, we review the invoice that's provided, all of the documentation that's provided. If it is attached to a purchase order, finance is in the, accounting is in the review of that purchase order before the procurement team finalizes it. So they have eyes on all of the documentation that would create the purchase order to ensure that that's in compliance with the grant requirements. So that would be the accounting team's main function when they're reviewing requisition or purchase order documentation. So that when they do get to the invoice stage of submitting that payment, they look at the invoice, they ensure that the invoice expenditure is in compliance with the grant agreement. So that's the first control. Outside of that, they ensure that the department, the finance folks in the department head are within the workflow and have signed off and reviewed said invoice. Then they look to make sure that the invoice is going to an authorized vendor of the city, that the remit to address is correct, that there isn't a duplicate payment in the system. So it's those types of controls. If the invoice is over $1 million, then the invoice, after it goes through all of the accounting review and approvals, then comes up to me as the director, and then I have to put eyes and approve every invoice over $1 million. Once that happens, once a week, the accounts payable team will then pull all of the approved invoices into what we call the check warrant for the week. And again, review of all of those invoices fall either on Connie as the controller or myself as the director. And if neither one of us are in the office, then the accounting supervisor is authorized to sign off and approve that warrant for payment. That warrant then goes to the treasurer's office, and then she will cut the checks from there and mail and distribute.
Thank you. That was exhaustive. Not exhausting, but exhaustive. So my follow-up question, I think this makes two, is, but they also, I feel like I should get there too, for the record. Where in that process did the school construction funds that came from the state, what part of that did they fail that has caused them not to be dispersed to the vendors?
So we don't operate a centralized accounts payable process. We have a decentralized accounts payable process. And school construction falls through a third party. So we have our managers, Arcadis and Colliers. So there's different, it depends on how that invoice comes into the city. So eventually, when it makes its way to the accounting team, we usually turn things over from either same day to within a week of receipt. So like if we run checks on Monday morning and we get the invoice on Wednesday, then it's typically reviewed for the next check run, that following Monday. So it all depends on when that invoice gets approved by the department and then to the city. A lot of school construction will flow through Public Works, and then some of it comes directly to finance.
Okay, so that was what I wanted to understand. It's not that the funds are paused because there's something improper
Correct.
About the paperwork. It's just because some department head said, we're going to hold on to the state's money.
I don't know if it's holding on to the state's money. It's sometimes like, right now it's budget season, so Julian and I may be really stranded and they could be waiting on an approval from me. And it's just lack of time to get to review those invoices. So something I might do daily during budget season or during audit season, I might do weekly or maybe even 8-9 days later. So it all depends. A, is it being held up in the department? Or B, are the approvals being held up by anybody in that workflow?
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. I will now start with Majority Leader Bildu and then go to Council President Clark.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Leanne, for your presentation. Thank you for your years of dedicated service. I wish you well in retirement, but we get to keep you until then, so look forward to continuing to work with you. I just have a question regarding the tax deed sale. What triggers a property to be moved to that tax deed sale, and do we have an idea of how many properties are being considered?
Sure. Nancy, you want to take this one?
Sure. So, I mean, we have criteria for a tax deed sale, and that's if the property owes over $10,000 and over 3 years past due. I can tell you there are many properties that fall into that category. We purposely did not add residential properties, just commercial. And there are 36 large commercial properties that owe quite a bit of money. And those are the properties that we chose for the tax deed sale.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You took my question. Leanne, it's always been a pleasure, so hopefully this is not going to be your last. You carry over till next year, at least. But thank you for your presentation and your team for their hard work. Just to follow up on the Majority Leader's question, I know in the past the city had put personal properties, residential properties on the tax deed sale list. So what's the position that the city is following of not doing so any longer?
I think it's a choice of a particular administration, really, to decide how comfortable they are, auctioning off residential property. And I sensed a great discomfort. I think Leanne would agree, after talking over various parties, development services in particular, that, we just thought that it was best to stay with commercial property, and they do owe the most, so it just makes sense. So, yeah, there are properties that are residential that owe over $10,000, and, so we'll have to have ongoing discussions about how to deal with those. I mean, we have other enforcement, other types of enforcement, but this is the one that tends to, to work. So for now, we're just going to stick with the commercial properties.
And if I may add, when the city did do a tax deed sale that was residential based, it was properties where the owner did not have an address in Hartford. So we knew it was rental property, and it really was an enforcement of collections, because we knew that most of those properties would redeem and pay what they should be paying to the city of Hartford. And it seems to slow down the delinquencies when they know that there's a chance that they may lose their property.
Yeah, I'm just curious as to those that are in excess of $10,000 and more, what the city's going to do, because obviously there's some issue, whether they're having financial hardships or they're choosing not to pay their taxes.
So we offer payment plans for people, and generally speaking, when someone is, past due by 3 years or over $10,000, they're willing to enter into a payment plan. And so for the most part, that's what we offer as an alternative to a tax deed sale. But, certainly there may be a time when we'll have to add those properties to a tax sale in the future.
Okay, thank you. I'll follow up with additional things. My last question is for my other favorite department, procurement. Regarding the MBE requirements and set-asides, do we have somebody in the procurement team that actually goes out to the job sites to check to make sure, especially since Councilman Mitchum brought up school construction, that the sites, what the contractors are actually indicating on the paper, that there are, for example, 30 Hartford residents that are working on the site versus they saying it's 30 and there's only 2.
Sorry, she turned it on. I turned it off. Good evening. So yes, we do have a senior field representative out of our contract compliance unit. They do not monitor school construction projects, right? Because that is what the construction manager does. However, other city projects, whether it's CIP or development projects, our senior field representative does go out to the sites. So far, she has done 28 field inspections, 93 employee interviews, and 16 wage audits. So she's on the job. So, you know, obviously it's, you know, doing random audits to, you know, make sure that the employees are getting paid, whether it's living wage or prevailing wage or whatever it may be.
Do we impose a fine to the contractors if they're not meeting the requirements by the city?
We don't. We do basically enforce, you know, the fact that they have to rectify what they did not pay them. Like if there is ever a finding on those audits, we basically, you know, bring it to their attention and let them know this is exactly how much you have to repay the employee. Maybe that's something that we can take up at another time, you know, adding corporation counsel to the conversation.
Sure, I like your thinking. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So thank you to the department. I know if my colleagues have follow-up questions, they will send them to you. And thank you again, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Can I ask one? I have like one clarifying question that's like
Slippery slope, Council.
I know, but
One question.
just to follow up on the tax deed sale line of questioning. Do we know how many rental properties there are that in years past would have been involved in the tax deed sale that have reached that level of time or amount?
So you're asking about in the past?
Right, because I know we're not doing it this year, but it's 3 years or $10,000? Right, but residential are right, but that's what I'm saying. Residential properties include rental properties, and that's what I'm trying to understand, is how many, which in years past, that have reached the 3 years or 10 grand threshold, are there that we're not putting on the list for sale?
Well, first thing I should mention is that we don't really know what is a rental property. It's not something that is reported to, well, do you know? We don't know. So the assessor doesn't know, tax collector doesn't know. We assume when we see a different mailing address, and that's what Leanne was getting at. So based on an assumption that these are rental properties, yes, we do know the number because, you know, we dealt with them in the past sale. So either we sold them at a sale, but for the most part, they're redeemed, meaning before the 6-month redemption period, they're paid in full. And really, that is the goal of a tax deed sale in my mind. It isn't to sell property to the public. It's to collect the taxes. And you know, that's what we're hoping for with this particular, Siri speaking, and that's what we're hoping for with the sale.
So just so I understand, does that mean then that we're not doing the sale on these properties because they all have a Hartford address? They all have an address? I didn't quite understand that answer. In other words, you're saying we assume it's a rental property if it's the responding address is different than the address of the actual building. So are all the addresses the same, and that's why we're not putting them on the thing to force compliance? I just don't understand. Like, I assume there's some properties that are plainly rental properties or likely rental properties that would benefit from forced compliance, and we're not forcing compliance in the usual way. And I'm trying to understand how many or why.
So, if I can jump in, so what we're saying is, if the taxable property is 550 Main Street, Hartford, and the place where we're mailing the bill is in Springfield, Mass., then we assume that it is a rental property. So if we are doing a tax deed sale, which we basically have to limit the number of properties that are going into the sale, which is around 50, which is the most that the law firm can handle because of the research that has to go into the deed before the sale can happen. So what Nancy does is she looks at those addresses to see where there's an external mailing address for a Hartford property, and that becomes the base when we do a tax deed sale based on what we think is rental property.
So are there no external addresses, and that's why we're not putting the residential buildings on the list? That's what do you understand what I'm asking here? Like, you're telling me that that's how you do it, but you're not telling me how that applies to this year.
Well, this year we chose not to put residential properties on the list. We could do a sale next year and include those properties. This year, we focused on large commercial properties that owe quite a bit, and it will just result in large collections as opposed to some of the smaller residential balances that are owing. I mean, it just made sense. And it also has to do with comfort level of auctioning. When you auction a residential property, even if it's owned by someone who is an out-of-state investor, there are still people renting in those properties, and they would be evicted if we sold the property. So, considering everything, and we decided this year we would choose commercial properties. Next year, we might make a different decision.
And if I could add, Councilman, that the outstanding tax receivable as of June 30, 25 was $54 million. So there are a lot of delinquent properties. But that $54 million makes up not only real estate, but personal property and motor vehicle as well. So not only is Nancy trying to hit the tax deed sale for real estate compliance, but working also on collections on the other two categories.
Thank you. Understood. I didn't mean to say that you all were slacking. Only I was trying to understand that choice and how it affects enforcement against delinquent landlords. But I understand as much as I can.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about this further through email or phone call.
Thank you. Thank you again. So we will now go on to our next department, which is Management, Budget, and Grants. We have Director Freund here with us, and you have the floor, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council President Clark and Chairwoman Rossetti and members of the council. Thank you for this opportunity for us to present the OMBG budget. I'm accompanied at the table here by the team that I think you're familiar with from prior years and in between budgets. At the far end of the table is David Beck, Assistant Budget Director. To the left of Dave is Cheryl Horowitz, our Director of Central Grants Administration. And to my immediate right is Jeff Halen, the other Assistant Budget Director. And we will kick off our presentation with, we'll display our mission statement, which is in the budget book. I won't read the whole mission statement because it's quite lengthy, but it has not changed from year to year. If you want to go to the org chart, that's kind of a good way to get an overview of what the department consists of. Just as a refresher, OMBG consists of 4 units. We have the Budget Development and Management Unit, prepares the annual recommended and adopted budgets, monitors our revenues and expenditures throughout the fiscal year, is responsible for all of the monthly reporting, including reporting to the MARB, and also prepares our 5-year financial plan. And Central Grants Administration coordinates and oversees 3 HUD-funded programs. That's CDBG, ESG, and HPA. These are formula grants that involve soliciting proposals from community agencies and also internal departments for the use of the funds, evaluating proposals, making recommendations about which ones to fund, presenting those proposals to you, getting that annual plan approved, and then contracting with the individual subrecipients, monitoring their contracts, monitoring drawdowns, and then starting the cycle all over again. Our grants office also collaborates with all of the departments, and depending on the individual department, they may support virtually any phase of the grant life cycle, from prospecting for grants, supporting grant application submittals, setting up grant implementation, monitoring, and helping with closeout. And again, it varies from department to department which of those services they avail themselves of. Our revenue management unit, which consists of 1 individual at the moment, is responsible for invoicing and collecting on a wide range of non-tax revenues, such as city-owned rentals, pilot payments, police private duty, special events, and the cannabis tax, and processing payments and pursuing collections on overdue accounts. And then lastly, our graphics and mail operation does exactly that, operates the print shop, printing and duplication services for all of the city departments, and managing mail services for the city. Currently consists of 16 authorized positions. Of those, the equivalent of 4.6 positions are funded through grant resources. In the next slide, we have some highlights from FY26, and these are, of course, in addition to all of our ongoing operations, from monitoring the budget, developing the budget, monitoring grants, managing the HUD programs, distributing mail, and managing revenues, of course. One of the highlights from the year is we did acquire a new budgeting software package called ClearGov. This we did through a master contract with CROG. We anticipate some great efficiencies out of this, especially in the areas of personnel budgeting and forecasting. This also gives us some vendor-supported software, which will ultimately stand in for what we have been using, which are some really incredible internally developed models that we use for all of our budgeting and forecasting purposes, but for the purposes of sustainability and longevity, we felt the transition over to a commercial software was in the best interest of the division. One of the modules that we acquired is the capital improvement planning module, and that we've actually already implemented, and it makes up one section of the CIP section of the budget was developed using that software this year. We have made some process improvements in our HUD contracting processes and the time frame of contracting, which may have been invisible to our subrecipients this year because for all of the hard work that the grants division did to streamline its process, we had a federal shutdown in the fall, which imposed a different kind of delay on us. But the team did work very hard at trying to get contracts together and executed very timely this year. We have, and Leanne mentioned this in the previous presentation, we have been working in collaboration with the Treasurer's Office, Finance, and Public Works in putting together the GO bond proposal, which this committee has actually reviewed already and is under consideration at a subsequent council meeting. The process also, as a result of our status with the State Oversight Board, does require the consent of the State Treasurer and the Secretary of OPM, and the MARB has weighed in with their opinion and recommended the approval of the borrowing package as proposed. We have developed a comprehensive set of revenue policies for our revenues division. We have, for a while, been working with kind of fragmented policies that were created in the most recent policies had been developed in 2019. Many of them were older than that. We have worked on updating all of them, creating new elements to policies where there were gaps, and weaving those into a comprehensive set of policies. Our city was awarded the Government Finance Officers Association Budget Award for the third year in a row, which is really a testament to the best practices that are in place. That award program reviews budget documents that are submitted for consideration based on roughly 45 different criteria that are based in best practices in budgeting. And again, that's 3 years running that the city has been given that recognition. And then lastly, we have made some efficiency upgrades in our mailroom with a new postage meter and folder and inserter, which will streamline or help to streamline operations there. This is a slide that provides a comparison of our fund balance to other municipalities in the region and some of the larger municipalities in the state. This question comes up every year, so I figured I'd go ahead and just put it in the presentation rather than saying, I'll get back to you. Leanne mentioned that we did hit our internal or city policy for the first time in quite a long time. You'll see the green bar there is the city's fund balance as a percentage of budgeted expenditures. And so although we've hit our target, we're still a little light compared to the other municipalities on the screen there, but definitely moving in the right direction and definitely contributed to the city's bond rating upgrade from December, when Standard & Poor's bumped the city up to credit rating of A-. The next slide, again, this is something that was discussed at length last year around this time. We're on the heels of some attempts from the executive branch to pull back or curtail federal grants that had already been awarded. It was around the time that the administration had submitted an operating budget for the next year, which would be this year, that greatly reduced funding to a lot of the programs that the city relies on for ongoing operations. And then we saw sort of in Congress at the appropriations committee levels, some proposals that included some of those very dramatic reductions. Ultimately, the outcome from all of those processes in several different appropriations bills more or less restored funding to levels that sustained those programs that the city it relies on for ongoing operations, such as our CDBG program was funded at a level commensurate to recent years. The other HUD programs, Home, Section 8, the WIC program. So generally speaking, our programs that rely on federal funds were relatively intact through that process. And that's not to speak about to other programs outside of the city's control and cuts that were made to Medicare and SNAP and so forth. I'm speaking specifically to those grants that support city operations and city staff. Looking ahead to next year, again, we're starting the process anew. The administration's proposal that was released a week, maybe even less, about a week ago, really is a repeat of what we saw in last year's budget. What happens in Congress, of course, remains to be seen, but that's where we are at the moment. Outside of those sort of ongoing programs and ongoing grants that support specific operations, Cheryl has noted that in the areas of competitive grants, we're seeing fewer opportunities and the overall numbers of opportunities decreasing. And then we just made a note there about congressionally directed spending, which used to be referred to as earmarks. We do see those opportunities continuing to come through, but are keeping our finger on the pulse of whether or not we'll see grant opportunities at the same magnitude and pace as prior years. You can move to the next slide. These are the strategic initiatives that are outlined for the department in the budget document, and those are the same as prior years. So I'll move on to the next slide, which is our actual department budget request. So for our general fund, the budget increases by 2%, entirely in contractual salaries and contractual and non-union salary adjustments. Outside of that, there were no changes. The grants that you see, again, those are projections of our grant spending in any given year. So when you see these grants tables, they're not projections of new awards. It's basically our projected spend down of existing grants. And in cases of grants that are routinely funded year after year, we'll include projected spend downs of those grants as well. And so the change there is really that the negative $67,000 is really a function of, sort of an adjustment to our projections of how quickly we'll spend down funds, and has less to do with any anticipated reduction in grant funding. Next slide. Our budget highlights and areas of focus. Again, we have sort of ongoing areas of focus in the areas of budgeting and providing good information to the decision makers and trying to align budget resources with strategic priorities. Doing our best to ensure equitable distribution of grant budgeted funds and proper implementation. Continuing to comply with all of the requirements of our oversight under MARB, accounting for all of our non-tax revenues that are collected, and ongoing aging reports, monthly reconciliations, and staying on top of delinquent collections, and then always managing the general fund budget with an eye towards increasing our fund balance to the extent that we can. And again, we've hit that target, exceeded the target of 7.5%. Specific to FY27, we will continue to roll out the ClearGov software that I described earlier. And then a big effort is going to be made on documenting policies and procedures for the budget office and also for the grants office. And the policies and procedures that we updated and developed for the revenue division was sort of step one. This is really part of an effort at sustainability and succession planning and building the infrastructure for the department. A lot of that relies on having really solid documentation about what we do and how we do it in place, and having that there as solid reference material going forward. We will be working with departments and our subrecipients among the community of our grants on improving and working on efficiency with those folks and compliance reporting, and ensuring that we're always working within the boundaries of what HUD requires. And we will do everything we can to work with the Board of Ed in any shared services, efficiency initiatives, and any long-term planning to support the folks at the Board of Education. And then the last slide is our staff composition statistics. I won't read through those. Those are, you can kind of scan those. And that concludes our prepared comments, and we are happy to take any questions that you have.
Thank you. I was going to say, I'd start with my colleagues on the screen, but I don't see anyone.
I'm here, Madam Chair.
Okay.
The screen went blank, but I have no questions. Just want to thank you for a great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I believe Councilman Thomas is gone, I believe. Okay, that brings me to, I will now start on my right side. Majority Leader, questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Julian, for your presentation, and thank you to you and your team for developing this budget. My question is on the collections for private duty, special events, and use of city property. Do you have a percentage of unpaid accounts, or what is your percentage for paid accounts if you do have that? And then a follow-up question to that will be, what efforts are you going to use to maximize those collections?
Thank you for that question. I have some data points that get at the question. This is through roughly the end of February, we had, and I'm looking at accounts that were billed in the current year, we're around 5% that were 60 days past due. 60 days is kind of a demarcation point for us, because it's at that point that we may begin either a do not call list for certain services, then it kind of escalates from there over to ultimately either being referred to collection, or depending on what the particular revenue stream is, maybe a referral to the tax office if it's something that would be result in a lien. So as far as the 60-day plus past due, as of the end of February, we were at, I'm sorry, it was 6.85%, and I had to make an adjustment for one item that should not have been included. So we're at 6.85% as of the end of February. Year end for FY25, we were at 7.3%, 60 days past due. The year before that, just a little under 3.5%. The year before that, which would be FY23, we're at 5.7%. So it's ranged between, you know, a little over 3% to 7%. Out of that 7% that we had at year end for FY25, there was about 500,000 that was in police private duty, which has since been collected. We do sometimes some of the larger accounts, like the larger utilities or some of the larger entertainment venues. They may have large receivables, and just based on their own cycle of payments, may not meet our 30-day payment. So, but we always collect on them. They always come in. They're pretty reliable, and so even if they get to like 30 or 60 days past due, ultimately we get it.
So you're saying mostly smaller accounts are the ones that remain past due?
Yes.
Okay.
And to the second part of your question, which is what are you doing about it? The policies and procedures was really a big step in that direction. Last year we spent considerable effort on just a consistent approach to delinquent accounts, and having consistent statements going out, consistency in terms of following up, placing certain customers on do not call lists if it was warranted, and then the ultimately referral to collections agencies, and just doing that consistently and routinely. So that was last year, and then this year, getting the policies and procedures updated and nailed down for all of the different revenue streams, and having those in place. And again, this is that consistency of application that will ultimately make a big difference.
Thank you. In terms of special events, is there any deposit required to host a special event, or do they go into the event paying $0 and then they pay at the end of having the event?
So that, I believe, is in flux with ordinance change that is in process. So let me get back to you on the details of that, because I'm not exactly sure where that landed.
I'm actually working on that, so that'd be
Okay.
great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie, for your presentation. Question, our mill rate, 68 mills, give or take. Additional, how much is an additional mill increase? What does it equate to as far as revenue?
That would generate an additional 4.1 million per mill.
Okay. And we were previously at 74, about 5 years ago?
Can you check that table in the, what was the max? It was at 74.2 in, it's on this table. In fiscal year 22, it was 74.29. And fiscal year 23 was a reval year, and it was lowered to 68.95.
And that was done in fiscal year 23?
Yes.
Okay. Are we still operating under the PAYGO for capital improvement projects?
We have been. The proposal that's before council with the general obligation bond would be sort of our first use of borrowing as a capital financing mechanism since, before the city, came under the oversight of Amaro, so at least eight plus years. So we still do pay-go as one piece of the overall picture. We're not 100. If this proposal is approved, it would not be entirely reliant on pay-go.
It would be, okay, so it'll be under the GO bonds, but PAYGO would be secondary, give or take.
Yes, so when I know we're doing CIP next Thursday, but when you look at, if you look in the CIP section of the document, you'll see that we've included the $25 million of proposed borrowing, those projects, and then there's funding that's programmed in for primarily two state grant programs, LoCIP, and then grants and aid, which is the city is receiving a one-time bump in grants and aid for a 2-year period. So you'll see that. And then there's a smattering of some smaller grants, like there's some CDBG funded projects proposed. And then in addition to that, the city's general fund contribution, which is right out of the operating budget, at $2.6 million. So all those things kind of bundled together make up the CIP for.
Okay. Thank you. My final question for the grants department regarding CDBG. How does the department develop its the process for reviewing grant proposals and then making the recommendations to the mayor?
So it's a very involved process. We're in the middle of it now, but we request proposals. There's an online process of inputting the grant in. We try to improve that process based on the feedback we get each year to try to make the application both more user-friendly and easier to do, but also giving us the information we need. After a period of about a month of having access to that, which ended at the end of February, we have a review process, and we have ranged in that to try to maximize and optimize the best way to do that, because you need to have people who understand the grants, and you also need to have people who are part of the community that understands what the impact of those grants are. So we try to get a mix. We get professional people, we get people in the community. Every year it's different. Some people want to do it. It's very time consuming. We try to limit it so we get more exposure. We only have them, we put grants into buckets which are similar in topic, and then we have people, hopefully three people, one of which is a person from our department, review those grants, between 4 and 6 grants, and then we score them, we average them, and then we take those averages and put it up against the allocation that we get. We just got the allocation less than a week ago, so we scurry around to both present this to the mayor, who will look at what our recommendations are, which are totally objective, based upon scores, based upon compliance with HUD, based upon their risk, of what kind of a risk they are to give that organization money. And then after we take what is usually 60 to 70% more of requests than we actually have money, and then we have to kind of pare it down based upon that. So we make recommendations within the department based upon, as I said, score and compliance. And generally try not to go below $10,000, because what we find is that when we fund somebody for less than $10,000, they really can't do very much, and there's a tremendous amount of regulatory compliance that they're responsible for, and it's really not fair. So we try to limit it to giving not much below 10,000. And for the group of grants, and you probably know this, there's a very small a bucket, which is 15% of the allocation, that is reserved for public service projects. And so that's where most of our people, most of our community nonprofits are applying for those grants. It's really just a very, very tight fit. So once we do that, we do eliminate some grants because they're just too much of a risk, their scores are too low, and we try to minimize the number of people we exclude. But based upon that, then we present, as I said, to the mayor and then to council based upon the mayor's recommendations. And then it's open for the council to review. They have access, you have access to all of the proposals, all of the materials in those proposals, and you can see and make recommendations to alter some of the allocations, what you're wanting for. So,
Thank you. Just a quick follow-up question.
Yeah.
The scoring rubric, is that something done by your department, or is that guidance from HUD? The scoring rubric?
Oh, the scoring rubric?
Yes.
No, that's done by us based upon what the elements of the application are, and it just helps the reviewers to be consistent, because what we're really looking for is to have people thinking and viewing each section similarly, and so it's just a guidance on which to give points. The sections each have between like 3 and 10 points in each in those sections, and it just helps us to regularize the scoring.
So all of that document and the contents within the rubric, that's been created by your department?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you all for answers and presentation. In terms of the budget analysis that you do sort of as part of your, maybe the core of what you do you, like when each department devises its budget that then goes into the budget, do you get to see like what the initial ask is? Not what we see here, but what department heads wish they could have?
Yes.
And so then you know how much less they get than what they think they need?
Yes.
Is that something that I can find out for each department?
Yeah, we could put something together that summarizes that information.
So the mitigation required of each department, so to speak.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm interested in. And who, is it also your analysis that as far as you know, when the mayor makes his budget, how does he get to the numbers that he tells the department heads, well, you can't have X, but you can have Y? Is that in reliance on your analysis, or does that come from somewhere else?
The requests are submitted and presented to the mayor in a way that it's very clear what is an add-on to existing level of service. So if it's an expansion of it, like hours at a community center or whatever the case may be, it's very clearly broken out, and so the mayor can go through a list and prioritize and determine what the level of need is, and based on organizational priorities and importantly our capacity to take on any of them, financial capacity.
Understood. And then I think this is my last process question, and I'll be my last question at all. As far as you know, like each department has its meeting and it says, we want this, and eventually the mayor says, no, you get that. What's the process for the mayor to take all these however many departments' requests and synthesize them and say, here's where I'm going to give more, here's where I'm going to take? Like, are you guys involved in that, or does that happen down the hall and you don't? touching.
Well, our involvement is in compiling it in a way that's understandable and for the mayor to be able to make those decisions. And so no, it's not invisible to us. We're like putting those materials together for the mayor to act on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. I see Councilman Thomas is back. Councilman, do you have any questions?
No, I'm okay, Madam Chair. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilwoman Rosado, do you have your hand up?
I do.
Okay.
I have a question through you, if it's okay.
Yep, go ahead.
Madam Chair, to Ms. Horowitz. First clarification, Ms. Horowitz, you stated that, well, let me ask you this. How many CDBG applications did we get that are below 10,000?
This year, we did not get any below 10,000. In fact, this year, most people did increase because there's a big repeat rate of people that are applying. Most people raised their requests. So nobody ever asks for very much less than 10,000. The problem is that we can't fund that and the number of requests that we had this year for public service applications was about 33 applications, and we only have less than 500,000. So if you do the math, you can figure out that, and the highest request was something on the order of $80,000, and the lowest was about $10,000. So the math is impossible, really, to do. So nobody, I don't think anybody, the only people who get full funding are the people who ask for 10,000, because we won't go below that. So if they've asked for 10,000 and we think their proposal is good enough and is a good proposal, then we'll recommend 10,000.
Okay. And my other question is, when you put the team together that evaluates and goes through the application, the CDBG applications, who picks those individuals?
Who, what?
I mean, who makes the recommendation, or is there a list that you put out requesting volunteers?
Well, everybody's a volunteer, but we do solicit people's inside of the city who have an expertise in that subject area, but a lot of those people are doing it on their company time, so to speak, and so there's not much of that. Some people do volunteer and say that they will do it on their own time, even though, and so they are doing it on their own personal time. We ask other professionals outside of the city that are either maybe working in Hartford or in agencies that are not, there's no conflict of interest. People who do sign up to do this have to sign a waiver and sign a conflict of interest form to participate. So we do our best to do it and to balance it and make sure that people who really do understand the nature of those proposals are included on those committees.
So you personally reach out to different individuals. It's not something that the city puts out asking individuals if they want to volunteer to do this.
No, and we have in the past had people who don't have that much expertise in those areas, and what we find is that we're very grateful for the time that they put into it, but a lot of times they don't understand what they're really grading, and that's where the rubric comes in, and their scores are very skewed from what the other people on those teams are. I'm not saying that we don't want that, but it requires a certain level of understanding of the program and of HUD regulations to really do a good job of scoring these applications.
Okay, so maybe you didn't understand my question. So my question is, do you personally reach out to individuals?
Yes.
Okay, okay. And my last question is, when you're grading these CDBG applications, let's say you have a nonprofit that fills out an application and you have questions on, let's say they have 5 number of employees. Do you go back and ask them to provide information, or produce information, to satisfy what they put on the application? Or is that something that's not done through this process? You just score them?
Well, we do just score them, but they, in the application form, they provide us a lot of documentation, and they upload forms that are required. Like when we ask about staff qualifications, we ask them to provide resumes of the people that are going to be in the positions that they are saying are going to perform on those grants. We ask for a number of city documentation to make sure that they are tax compliant, you know, so that they're responsible citizens in the city. We have a number of those kinds of forms, documentation forms, that establish that they are credible and responsible organizations. We also ask for what's called a UEI, which is the federal identification number that we are really technically not allowed to fund other organizations that do not have UEIs. So we have to know ahead of time whether there is a UEI. We don't. I will just basically tell you that at the end of this process, there still could be questions that we have on whether or not what they're actually proposing to do is compliant and is a eligible activity. And so we have later conversations after you receive the applications, the mayor received the application, and we make sure that we are only funding things that HUD will approve.
Thank you so much. Madam Chair, I do have follow-up questions, but I will send an email. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. There are no other questions. I thank you tonight for your presentation, and that will now bring us to our next presenter, which is Sports and Recreation. While I have this moment, I do want to thank Michael from HPA-TV, and I want to thank the staff here, Noelia, George, Oscar, Kelly. Charmaine's not here tonight, but thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Hello, everybody. Thanks for having us tonight. I first want to introduce my team. This is our admin team for Sports and Recreation. I was actually thinking about this before we came up here. Every single one of us graduated from Hartford School. I think that's pretty cool. Like, they were all coming from Hartford and grew up in Hartford. And recreation really means a lot to all of us. We all participated in recreation in different ways.
Is your mic on? I just feel like I'm not hearing you be amplified, which,
You hear me?
yeah.
Perfect.
I mean,
Thank
I hear
you.
you, but I want the
Thank
folks
you.
who are online to hear you.
I can use my PE voice, and then everybody will hear us, but that would be a problem. So just like I was saying, I think it's really cool. This department is really Hartford-based. All four of us are Hartford raised, went to school in Hartford, graduated from Hartford schools, and really have a vested interest in sports and rec in the city of Hartford. So it means a lot to us to be able to like lead this department, which I think is really cool. So on my left is Christina Rodriguez, who currently, she was my executive assistant and is now the role of events operations specialist. I had to like look it up as our new role. She is moving under the mayor's office with special events, but coordinating with us to try to make this a little more seamless for the community. I'll get more into that in a little bit later on in my presentation. To my right is my deputy director, LaShawn, and past him is Corey, who is our MSO for the team. So our mission statement has not changed since it was started 2 years ago. The department really works to be the hub of sports and recreation for the city of Hartford. I believe it takes a village to run and do a lot of stuff in Hartford. There are a lot of other organizations in Hartford doing this stuff, and we really want to try to not step on toes, but work together with as many groups as possible to make it the best for the kids and the families in Hartford for recreation in the city. With our org chart, that also has not changed much since last year, really adding on our deputy director, which was a big piece for us to be able to focus on improving staffing has been a big piece of what LaShawn has been focusing on, really elevating staff, working on staff trainings, bringing a whole nother level of expertise to this department, which has been great. I just mentioned Christina is now under the mayor's office under special events. One of the big reasons we made that switch was previously special events was running their own permits for events going on in the city. It was DPW before, and now Sports and Rec was also running permits in the parks. The systems were not talking to each other, right? You could have a wedding going on in a park and a baseball tournament going on right next to it because the two of them never talked. So now we now work together. We're moving under the same system, Civic Plus, and Christina leads up that piece of what we're doing through both departments, so that now the programs and all the different events going on in the city are seamless together. And the goal is, we're not there yet, the goal is that it's also going to be a much easier system for the residents of Hartford to be able to do special events and to book facilities and programs in the city. So it's a big piece of what we're trying to move forward to make this a lot easier for the families and organizations to work and do stuff in Hartford. Other than that, we added Corey to the department as well under the MSO position. He's been around the city quite a bit and has a lot of experience. We've been grateful to have him join our team as well. So other than that, it's pretty much the same org chart from before. This breaks down our department kind of by the different positions. On the left are the full-time positions throughout the city. We just talked about the ones here at the table. And then we also have our community rec counselors, which run the facilities and oversee programming. Our aquatics coordinator oversees aquatics. And then part-time staff. Part-time staff is a huge piece of our department. During the school year, we run about 44 staff that are running the centers and programs out in the parks for our department. In the summer, we ramp up to 130 part-time staff, which a big piece of that is aquatics and camps. So during the summer, we're up to 120 part-time staff, and then we drop down to 44 during the school year, which is kind of the breakdown of the different positions under this department. Program highlights. So a big piece of what we've been trying to do is add a variety of programs to what we're offering, right? Looking at what's going on in the city and figure out where the gaps are, right? Previous to this past year, there were no youth volleyball programs in the city of Hartford. We have middle school volleyball, we have high school volleyball, but our kids are not playing volleyball until they get to there, and then they're playing against the suburbs, and it's not working out well. And so this past year, we started a volleyball youth program at the rec center on Saturdays in the fall. Huge success, great program, and kind of building off stuff like that. We had the same thing for t-ball, looking at different gaps. We added a bunch of adult fitness programs this year as well. Pilates, we have going on in the rec centers. Zumba is a big hit. Yoga classes, trying to offer a variety of stuff. We're now also starting to add on senior programming as well, to really add more and more programs. So from last year to this year, really just trying to up the different programs. Last year we had 42 programs. This year we're up to 56 programs that we're offering. For programs that we run registration for, we have, as of today, or as of February, we have 3,098 residents signed up for programs. That's on track to be about 600 more than last year in our programs, about 33%. Just in the last 5 weeks alone, since we switched over to Civic Plus, we've added 1,500 new members to our membership. So through that membership, individuals can come into any of the centers and go into the pool, sign up for programs, go to the gym, do different stuff like that. As of February, we're at about 12,000 members in Civic Plus that are city residents. One of the nice things too about our new program is, I don't know the term exactly, but only Hartford residents can sign up for programs. So we have it set up so it will actually not let you get through the whole process. It checks your address when you're registering for programs so that you have to be a Hartford resident to be able to sign up for our programs. We do offer stuff that you don't have to be, but the majority of our programs, especially the ones that have limits on it, like camp, swim lessons, that kind of stuff, are specific to Hartford residents. And that's new to the new program that we're running now. Some other highlights, we've extended summer programming, we've extended our camps. We offer a full winter camp and spring break camp. We have spring break camp actually starting next week at 2 of the centers. That'll be going on all day, so families can have a place for their kids to go all day. We also extended the pools during the summer. Last year we were 6 weeks. This year this past summer we were 8 weeks. So 6 weeks the previous summer. This year we were 8 weeks, and keep on expanding from there. We also expanded our night gym program that we do during the summer. We added on a violence prevention piece to that with Siobhan's department to really utilize those skills in the different programs that we ran over the summer with night gyms. Collaborations and community organizations. We've done a lot with DFCY this year. They've partnered with us for our camps. They've helped provide food for a lot of the programs we have going on, different services. So we've been working real hard with them to kind of tag team things. So we're working on running a program, we've got the kids there, and then they bring in the wraparound services to go along with it. So we entice the kids to come in with basketball or whatever is going on, and then they come in, they have food for the families, they run a bunch of services for the families as well while they're already there in the rec centers. Also working with Hartford Public Schools, we're doing a bunch with them with our camps currently for spring break camp and winter camp, and then this coming summer we're actually going to tag team their summer school with our camp to have kids be able to do both, so that kids aren't skipping summer school to go to camp or vice versa. So we're setting it up so the kids can do both and have programs going on pretty much 8 in the morning to 8 o'clock at night this summer. Other partnerships involve Active City, NRZs, the YMCA, Boys and Girls Club, a bunch of different youth sports groups, adult sports groups that we're partnering with, as well as the friends groups in the parks. We have a couple different programs going on with different friends groups in the parks coming up this spring. Working on our organizational structure, we're currently working with HR to create pathways for our own staff to grow in our department. A lot of our job descriptions are 50 years old and require college degrees for small part-time positions. And it's really hard for a lot of our staff to be able to be promoted within the department. So we're working on creating better pathways for our own staff to be able to grow in the department. Also, working on a lot of trainings. One of the big pieces I spoke earlier with LaShawn coming on is, it's been a focus of his, is really to elevate the staff, to help the staff grow, work on different departments, different certifications and trainings for the staff, which has been a big piece of what we've been working on this year to really elevate the staff in our department. Some of our strategic initiatives. So a big piece of our switch over to Civic Plus is, one, to be able to make it a lot user-friendly on the back end for residents to be able to sign up for programs, different stuff going on in the city, to all have it in one place. But also, it's a great way for us to now get surveys out to families, to get data back. The previous system we were using, MyRec, couldn't even tell us the difference between a male and a female in registration. Whereas now, this new system not only can break down all the stats on male versus female, residents versus non-residents, drop-in programs, registration programs, we can get a lot of data out of that. So that's one of the big reasons we switched over to that system. So this coming year will be a big piece for us, is to work on those measurables to figure out, where we can grow, how we can continue to improve our programs based on actual data. A big piece is also facilities, really trying to maximize facilities. This summer, we're going to go from 2 camps to 4 camps. We're going to start utilizing Messner Center and Willie Ware to add more programming into those centers as our satellite sites. The past year and a half, we've really focused on our 2 main rec centers, Arroyo and Parker. Now this year, we're really looking to emphasize those other programs. We actually just started this spring with programs at Metzner in the evening. We had a karate start this week, and breakdancing at Metzner for kids in the evenings. Willie Ware's already got a bunch of different programs and that go through the school year, but typically we would not run programs there in the summer. We're going to add a camp there this summer that we're partnering with Hartford Public Schools to run. So it'll be for summer school kids to have a place to go after summer school to then do different activities. So really trying to spread recreation throughout the city, make sure we're in every single neighborhood. We're also adding on Blue Hills this year. On July 1, we're hoping to open up Blue Hills. We're going to run a teen camp this summer. We're adding on a bunch of different programs there. It's something we're working on right now, is what that's all it's going to look like. But a big piece of our budget is that adding the staffing to Blue Hills and the programming piece to that. We're already in conversation with different organizations in and around the Blue Hills Rec Center to look at what their needs are, what are their wants, how can we do stuff together? Is this a place they can come and do meetings and do events also? And then what programs we can run there to help support that neighborhood. Budget. So for our budget, really the increase is 24.7%. The increases are for $400,000 towards part-time staff, which is really not an increase from this year. We're already on track to spend that this year. That's maintaining our current staffing level with the centers at the certain hours that we have right now. And so to keep on that, to make sure we can open up on Saturdays, make sure we're opening up in the evenings, we needed that money to add to that part-time staff level. Other addition is $230,000 for Blue Hills, which we just talked about. 200 of that is for staffing. 30,000 is for programming between equipment, contractors, other things to run programs in the center. And then the typical salary increases by union staff. We are reducing the one. Christina's position come next budget year will be under the mayor's office, out of their budget, not out of our budget. So that's the reduction in our budget. The rest is all increases. This one I just talked about, the Blue Hills, so it's $200,000 for staffing. We're looking to open up 6 days a week, running programs. We're gonna have an e-gaming center inside Blue Hills to be able to have after-school programming for high school students, middle school students, homework clubs, different programs like that, as well as adults and senior programming, especially with senior center right around the corner from there to be able to have different stuff going on in there is what we're looking at currently. And to keep up with our current budget, that's what that $400,000 is for, to keep up with our current budget. Collaborations, working with DPW to ensure that our parks are being used to the best abilities, working with them to make sure that we're, keeping track of what fields need to be mowed, as permits are coming in, letting them know what needs to be lined, different stuff like that. We have a weekly meeting with the Parks Department to go through and figure out what needs to be done for that week for the different facilities in the city to try to maximize that as well. Staff composition. City Hartford, we're about 70% city residents, 30% non-city residents. And then, you can see the breakdown here. We're 42 female, 56 male through our department. And that's the end of our presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe we will start with people on the screen. Councilman Thomas, I'll start with you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm all set. Thank you so much, Brother Gallagher, for the presentation. And it was, in my opinion, the nicest presentation tonight. It fills me with joy. I think you guys are doing a great job. Appreciate it. And looking forward to hearing about stuff at Willie Ware. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilman Thomas. Councilwoman Rosado.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Brian, for your leadership and for a very comprehensive presentation. I really appreciate the progress your team is making. I also want to highlight the transition to Civic Plus. I think that is a strong step forward in how we use technology to better connect with the residents. Just a quick question. How do you plan to use it to increase participation and track the impact of the programs?
One of the main reasons we switched over Civic Plus, or initially why we switched over, was it's the user-friendly piece. It's way less steps to sign up for programs. In my rec, you had to go through 8, 9, 10 steps, and we feel like we were losing a lot of patrons. Also in Civic Plus, it's mobile phone friendly, which my rec was not. So right there, that's a big piece of why we had to switch over. My rec, I think we brought to the city 15 years ago, and I don't think there's been an update since. So a lot's changed in 15 years. A big piece of also how we plan to use it to improve participation in the city is we can actually look at the data. We can send out surveys. So at the end of every registration class, families are getting surveys to ask questions about what they thought, how we can do this. So then we can use that data to improve our programs, really look at what they're looking for as well, to make sure that it's not just about what Brian Gallagher wants for recreation, but what the community wants for recreation. We can also use marketing as a big piece. So Civic Plus also helps out with marketing. We can advertise, we can send out stuff a lot better. We're actually improving our marketing as well, putting together a whole plan in place on how to improve marketing, working with Hartford Public Schools to do that as well.
Wonderful. I'm looking forward to seeing the great things you'll do in 2026. You have a great team next to you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I will start now with Councilman Mitchum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Brian and team. Appreciate your work and the presentation of it. Was there anything you asked for that you didn't get in this budget?
It's a loaded question. Actually, we're pretty much, I would love a new van, but I don't think that's possible. We've got a lot of the great stuff that we have. Honestly, last year we didn't get any extra funding last year, and we did this year. And I think we got a lot of the stuff we asked for this coming year. And I feel like we're in a really good place moving into the next fiscal year. I didn't feel this way last year. I feel a lot better this year. Go for it.
Hello, everybody. It's good to be back. The one thing that we didn't actually get a clear answer on is our technology. One of the things that I'm sure you are all very aware of is that we don't have the greatest technology purchasing system. So we're a little unclear as to some of the requests that we put in. Also, one of the things that we really need is Wi-Fi for our recreation centers. I don't know if you guys frequent them frequently, but it's a little difficult sometimes. So I think that's one of the things that we're really cognizant of, is making sure that every resident can go into our recreation centers and be provided with Wi-Fi. So that's just a thing that we are lacking a little bit on.
I remember, I don't know, sometime in the last, there's been discussion of getting more off-hour and off-season use of the public school buildings and facilities. What's the status of that?
It's getting better every day. Corey is also on our team, which helps out a little bit with that, with his involvement with the schools. We currently do have a couple programs that we partner with that are using the schools. We've made a lot of strides in the last couple weeks on partnering more with Hartford Public Schools. We've spent a lot of time over there working with them on that to really improve that. I think we still have a ways to go, but we've had some really positive meetings really recently that I think is going to help that. But it is definitely a struggle. We were talking about fields. Right now the city has one artificial turf field that has lights. The Board of Ed has 3, and all the community is trying to use that one field, right? And so how could we then use all of them, work to use all of them?
Is it a money challenge principally, or is it like an overlapping jurisdictions challenge principally?
It depends on who you ask. Currently they do charge to use facilities, and it's expensive. And so it's hard for organizations to be able to afford to use the schools and for their stuff, whereas we don't charge to use our facilities. And then on top of that, there's a lot of hoops to jump through to be able to make that happen. And so it is definitely a structure piece too. I have a great relationship with the department that runs the facilities. I've been booking fields for them for 25 years. But it's like you have to physically talk to a person, then the person has to there's no online system. It's not transparent, and which makes it difficult.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Councilman. Council President?
Thank you, sir, for your presentation. Where do I start? The fields seems to be an issue. I'll follow up on email regarding that part. But how does, with this new system, how is your department prioritizing, since Annie Fisher is the only artificial field the city has with lights, and evidently it is a very popular location, and you can make the argument for certain groups should have priority, and other groups should be geared towards other fields. How is your team now going to prioritize that?
So the system that's set up in place is we have the tier system, and so that is the priority first, right? And so we actually Hartford Public Schools has priority for after school on all of our fields. So they have priority till 5:30 Monday through Friday. They don't get priority above that on the evenings and weekends. Then we prioritized our tier 1 group first, which is the sports and rec department plus youth programs that are 80% Hartford youth. And so they get first priority. They have a week to put in their permits first. Permits are given on a first come, first basis within reason. right? Part of why we switched this online system 15 years ago is there are organizations in Hartford that were booking literally 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on the fields. Because they're tier 1, they're not paying anything. They just want to have complete control of the field. And so now with this system, it's transparent. You can see that, and you can, we're working with groups. Part of what we also do is, as people put in permits, we reach out and have conversations, right? So, there was a lot of groups that went after Annie Fisher, as they do every season, and then we try to work with them to say, hey, Annie Fisher's probably not going to work out, right? How about Cork Middle? It's got an artificial turf field. You guys don't need lights because you're going to be done by 6 p.m. every night. I'll make sure you get the nights you need over there. We can work it out for you to be over there. We've moved other groups to different parts of the city to help spread out the programs, not just there. We've also actually, in the fall, we actually worked with 2 different organizations to get them into Hartford Public Schools to use their turf fields, to make it so they didn't have to pay for those, and so they can use this to open up the field for the groups at Annie Fisher. But they get priority. After that, priority then goes to adult organizations that are 80% Hartford, and then from there to the outside community.
And with that, how new is this system?
5 weeks, 6 weeks, maybe.
Yeah, so hello everyone. So this system we activated it on February 22nd. We didn't open the fields until April 1st. And so they were allowed to put their reservations in. However, with this new system, we learned that it does not allow me to approve bulk permits. So they're putting their permits in with multiple dates. I have to go in and actually approve them one by one. Whereas with my rec, it showed me as a bulk reservation. So last spring or summer, because that's when I took over, I would have 50 permits sitting there waiting for me to approve. This year, I had over 1,700. And so I had to go through one by one, and I'm continuing to go through one by one to approve them. And I basically trying to do it month by month and try to get through them as fast as possible. But it is very overwhelming compared to the last system.
And we're working on how to make that better for the future. We're working with Hartford Public Schools, which is 70% of those reservations, to make sure they're getting their stuff in ahead of time. We're actually gonna front load all their stuff in because they have the priority anyways during the school day or right after school. And we're also working on the back end to create group the organizations into the system, which is something that wasn't happening before. Before, everybody could create their own profile. And so, you can say, hey, I'm Josh basketball group and I'm 80% Hartford, so I get priority 1. And then we show up and not one person is actually from Hartford on that group. Whereas now we're the ones going in the back end to create those profiles and requesting the information ahead of time for rosters so that we can actually look and make sure that people are on the right tiers to be able to do programs. It's going to take us a little while to get up to speed in this new system, but I really believe that within time we'll be there. Originally, we jumped into this system for this season because of special events. They needed it for what they were trying to do, but then the ordinance didn't get passed, or didn't get passed yet, and so they're not even using the system yet. It's just us, and so we would have much rather have pushed this to the summer to use this, but it's kind of where we are. So we're trying to figure out as we go. We prioritized this month to make sure all the permits were set up for this month. So everybody who has permits in for April got those permits. We also we don't just say, hey, you're not getting the permit. We work with you to figure out, okay, I can't give you the permit at Annie Fisher. Can I give you the permit somewhere else? We're working with all these groups. I think that's something that we really pride ourselves on this team and this department, is to work with everybody to try to make this work. And I really appreciate, I was one of those groups that was booking fields for a long time, and I understand the struggle of trying to do this, trying to get it all in, trying to get the whole season in, waiting to 12 o'clock to make sure I hit send, so I'm the first one in. And so we're really working to try to make that happen. Part of the good and the bad of the work we've done over the last 2 years is there are a lot more groups trying to run programs in Hartford and doing stuff and doing it the right way. That's now, whereas, 5-6 years ago, there's only a couple groups trying to fight over those fields, and so it's easier to manage that. Now there's hundreds of groups all trying to do this.
Now, speaking about programs, you're building a department. I'm glad that the rec centers are really coming alive, especially Blue Hills. Is about time. But regarding programs, leagues, is your department going to officially start a Hartford League? You have leagues all within the city, other competing leagues outside of the city. So is there any progress there, or you're just going to be a facilitator?
So we're trying to do both. So I'm trying to figure out where the gaps are. So for example, this past summer, we brought back the Summer Basketball League. So when I was a kid, I played for Elizabeth Park. We had a team. We played in the leagues. That league hasn't existed in 20 years. This past summer was the first time we brought it back. So we had 5 divisions of 6 teams each. We ran our own league. We partnered with other organizations in Hartford, Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, different groups all put in teams to participate in it to make it so that kids didn't have to go play in those other leagues. There are some sports that there's already a lot of different leagues going on. And so, for example, soccer, right? So soccer, there's already 3 different youth soccer programs in the city of Hartford. They all play in the state travel leagues. They've got kids from 5 years old to 18-year-olds already playing in that. I don't think we should be running a league for soccer for those kids. Now we can do the little kids. We can do a winter program. So we did a winter program for them to help fill those gaps because that's where they were missing. And so, yes, I would like us to get into doing more leagues. This summer, we are going to expand on our basketball league. We're also going to run a middle school and high school soccer league for the different schools in Hartford to be able to play over the summer to get ready for the fall season. We have a flag football program with our own in-house league that we're doing that. We also have the Saturday Hoopsters basketball program this year we expanded to 3 locations, and then we did our own tournament and league amongst our own program to play in that as well.
Okay, final question to that, when you talk about partners, how many partners does your department partner with, and do they receive any city funds?
I don't have a number of how many. There are quite a bit of organizations that we partner with on lots of different levels. There are most of the different partners we partner with, we either use as a contractor, and so they run programs for us and we pay them through contractors. And there's a lot of that. We're actually expanding our budget for next year. That's why we're moving around some of our money in our budget to be able to use more contractors. And there's a wide variety of that, and that's changing from season to season. And then there are, a couple larger groups that we partner with for those organizations, and then they get paid for that.
From your budget?
Yeah.
Okay.
Last year there was only 2 large organizations that we paid funding for outside of our small contractors that we used.
Who were they?
So it's the football group that did flag football for us last year. They were the largest, and then Active City program as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Oh, no, sorry, 52 Sports is the name of the football group, 52 Sports.
52 Sports, that was the flag football team? Yeah. Not 32 Sports?
32 Sports,
right,
32 Sports, sorry. Yeah. His jersey number, it's his jersey number.
Got you, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question in relation to the collaboration on parks, fields, and recreation centers. Question that's come to me in the past, will there be some type of compliance monitoring for field use, park use, outside of business hours, in case of overlapping of events?
Yep, that's part of our job. It's part of with the new job with Christina is going to be going out and compliance with the different organizations.
So for example, on a Saturday, find an organization that's out there that shouldn't be out there, and what would happen in that case? What does that look like?
So they're gonna, so typically they could call, they can call Christina,
Okay.
and she'll be able to figure out if they're supposed to be there or not, and then they can decide from there on how to like move forward.
So the organization that was supposed to be there can contact Christina?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
It's still also a work in progress. We're still trying to figure out if there's going to be fees involved and how that would work. With the two departments, with me being involved in two departments, that's the whole premise of this position, just to make sure that everyone is complying so that, you know, the youth groups and everybody else who are doing the right things are not being punished for doing the right thing.
Great, thank you. And lastly, I know the software gives you a lot of numbers, a lot of percentages. Do you have any numbers for the success of your programming for growth, repeat participants?
That's a great question. I can get you data on like repeat. So currently, you know, like right now there's, I think it's 600 people are signed up for swim lessons this year. Out of that 600, I'm sure a lot of them signed up for every season. So, you know, we have a fall season, winter season, spring season. Yeah, so a lot of repeat is broken into that. But I can get you, so you're looking for like how many people sign up once and then sign up over and over again.
Then continue to sign
Yeah,
up
yeah.
for either the same programming or additional programming?
Yep. Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah. We definitely have some kids that I see every single day in every single one of our programs and sign up for everything.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you
agree.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just have two comments, really not a question. I really love to see in your slides the collaboration piece, the continued, you know, particularly I think my colleague mentioned, you know, Hartford Public Schools and how we continue to maximize that and the difficulties that there have been and the help that we're getting. And also the collaboration with DPW and field usage and how it's improved. And I know I've said this before, and certainly sports is wider than it was, but I really want to remember that we kind of, you know, gender neutral things, that a lot of it is more male dominated, and some of it is what it is, and it changes a little bit, but that we continue to focus on what we can bring to young women also when we're, you know, thinking about that, because we don't, as I think kids age, they also become more, we don't want to lose them.
Yep.
You know, we don't want to lose them. If there's something of interest, they will participate. So I've mentioned this before, and I just want us to be mindful of that. So,
Definitely.
other than that, I have no other questions from my colleagues. And
I have one question.
I am
through you.
wrong. I have a question from my colleague, Councilwoman Rosato. I see your hand up
Yes,
there.
it's more, yes, thank you. It's more of an ask. Can you provide us with a report on which communities are still underserved, and can you break it down by participation, outcomes by neighborhood, race? I remember, I think it was Councilwoman Marilyn Rossetti, a year ago, 2 years ago, we were at interviews at Parkville. It was summertime, there was not one individual in the swimming pool. And so I'd like to see what the data on what that looks like now, maybe last year, what you have projected for this year coming. How do we reach out to the underserved population to try to get them to the recreation centers and, you know, for them to participate more? Like, what type of outreach are you using?
So we're actually working right now with CT Data, I believe CT Data or Hartford Data. So we're a grant that they received recently to do research on exactly that. So they're working with us to look at what communities are served and how they're served and focusing on recreation. So we should have that data soon, but we'll also definitely try to look into, see if we can pull that data from the stuff that we have currently.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Now I think we have no more questions. Don't Council President, you're so funny. With that being said, I want to thank you. I want to thank your staff. I want to, again, thank HPA-TV and council staff. And this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.